Speaker of the House Mike Johnson joining us on the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker Hotline. Congressman, good morning.
Hey, guys. Great to hear your voices.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you joining us.
You got it. Anytime.
The first discussion that I had heard about the 25th Amendment had come from you, and I had made notes when we first started talking about you coming on. But, Mike, things have changed so much just in the past few days. It is so fluid. Do you think Joe Biden is going to be the Democrat nominee?
You know what? I'd put it at 50-50 at the moment, and I can't believe I'm saying that. We actually want to run against Joe Biden.
Right. I thought the same thing.
Part out loud. Yeah. But it does seem to be that we're in the midst of a sea change here, and you have a counting number of Democrats in Congress who are now calling for his removal from the ticket. They got a real problem, though, Mike. They got, they don't, there's not an easy way to replace them, and they don't have anyone who can do it. You can't leapfrog Kamala Harris if you're the Democratic Party, because then you create another set of problems for yourself. And Michelle Obama can't parachute in and save them because she doesn't want to do it. So they've got a real quandary on their hands. The debate put on display for the whole country and frighteningly to our adversaries as well, the enemies of our nation, that our commander-in-chief is in a very weakened state. And, I've said in every interview I've done nationally that I take no pleasure in pointing out what everybody sees.
Right.
I've known this for quite some time. And I'm not gone out and done press conferences on it because I was fearful about what China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea might do if they recognize the true state of things. So we got a serious problem. The reason we brought up the 25th Amendment is because desperate times call for desperate measures. And I don't know what's going to happen, but, once again, we're in uncharted waters as a country.
Well, I heard you in an interview talking about, they asked you have met one-on-one with Joe Biden over the, past several months, if not longer. And I think the interviewer, and I forgot who it was, asked you, have you seen this decline personally? Which you replied affirmative.
I have. Back in January, it was rather famously reported for 8 straight weeks, I could not get a meeting with the president. His staff would not allow it. And so I finally got frustrated. I needed to talk to him about national security measures, and it was very important. And so I went to the Hill press corps, and I said, I just want everybody to be aware, the Speaker of the House is no longer allowed to meet with the President of the United States. Just let that settle on you for a minute, Well, They put so much pressure on the White House, he relented, he invited me in, and when I showed up, it was an ambush because he had Kamala there and Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and all of them. The point was that they did not want me to be alone with him in a room because now I understand, we all understand, they were afraid of what he might say. In hindsight, I look back on it and I realized every time that I've met with him, he's been reading from a script. They hand him a notebook with laminated pages. He literally reads it to me, He's not fit to be the president, okay? And I don't, again, take no pleasure in saying this. It's not personal. Everybody ages differently. But clearly, just look at the tape of Joe Biden 4 years ago when the last time he ran for president. And now, it's a precipitous decline, and it's one that we cannot afford.
Mike, you said that Michelle Obama doesn't want it. I don't think she's going to have a choice. I think that's going to be their nominee. I think Barack's going to say, you're going to do it because they want back in the White House.
I don't think they want it that badly. The Obamas have a very lavish lifestyle now. They don't have to work hard. They make lots of money.
I hope you're right.
No, well, here's the other thing, too, though. She's looking at the same polls that we are. Right now, everyone believes that we are going to win. The Republican Party is going to retake the Senate, and we're going to grow our House majority. And so the Obamas look at that, and they say, by some miracle, if we could defeat Donald Trump, would we want the office? Michelle Obama says, do I want to be sitting in the Oval Office when I've got conservative Republicans running both chambers of Congress? I don't think so. That's not going to be very fun for me. And she's right. So, I think that is a big deterrence for her, and they don't want to take the sacrifice. The Obamas, in my estimation, are, they're going to look out for their own interests first, put it that way.
So, Speaker Johnson, Democrat governors are traveling to the White House today, including Governor Gavin Newsom, who says he is going to, quote unquote, stand with President Biden. Is that really, just between us and Mike and thousands of listeners here in the 4th Congressional District, is that really what's going on today? Or are they going to ask Biden to step down?
Well, you're hearing murmurs behind the scenes, Louis, that you've got a lot of these governors who feel exactly the way everybody else in the country does. I mean, the latest number says 70% of voters say Biden does not have the mental acuity to serve as president. So they've got to go home to their states and answer to their own constituencies. And they're worried about, their chances in this election cycle. They're terrified of Donald Trump being president again. Why? Because we're going to turn America's engines back on. We're going to get the economy humming again. We're going to bring common sense back to Washington. We've got a long, very aggressive first 100 days agenda to cut taxes, cut regulations, have spending cuts, pro-growth policies. And we're going to take these agencies that have been weaponized against the people back down to size. And that terrifies the left. And so, the governors, I think, are going to have some intense fellowship. Let's say it that way. That's how we say it in the East. Right? They're going to have intense fellowship with the president today, right? Difficult conversations. But again, if they had a viable plan B, they would have already begun that. They're in a real mess, and it's unprecedented in our history.
Well, and we know the left, Speaker, they're losing their mind because the Supreme Court has just, they've announced some monumental decisions this past week or two, including immunity for President Trump, who is now going to apparently apply SEAL Team 6 and take out his enemies, anybody he doesn't like, because he'll have complete immunity. This is irresponsible what the left is doing now, what they're saying.
Yes, I was sitting on the Fox News set about to go live at the top of the hour on the Jesse Watters show. Kayleigh McEnany was guest host the other night, right after President Biden made that ridiculous speech commenting on the Supreme Court case. And my reaction was, this is detestable and it's dangerous, right? Because they're suggesting that the president would be able to become an assassin. I mean, it's madness. And the dangerous thing is they're undermining the Supreme Court itself. Its common sense decisions are now being presented as though it's some kind of radical change. And it's exactly upside down. The left always misrepresents this. And now you got the president of the United States, Joe Biden, echoing those things. I mean, this is the reason you had, actual assassins on the lawn of Supreme Court justices in the last couple of years. I mean, this is dangerous stuff. You cannot undermine our system of justice and the people's belief in that system. And that's what he's doing for his own personal benefit, because he's desperate and he knows he's losing the election. So we got to call this for what it is. The court made exactly the right decision. Obviously, the president has to have immunity for their official acts. You can't sit in the Oval Office and make the most important decisions for he's the leader of the free world on an hourly basis and be worried about some rogue prosecutor somewhere taking you to court for it, right? I mean, this is just common sense. But don't try to apply common sense to the radical left. They've given up on that.
Absolutely. And let me ask you this. We didn't talk about this prior, but you have really weathered some storms in your brief tenure so far as Speaker. Have you spoken with Marjorie Taylor Greene lately, or any of those? How is that?
I talk to him every day. Look, Newt Gingrich posted an op-ed about 5 weeks ago in the Washington Times. He said, Speaker Johnson has the most challenging speakership since the Civil War 160 years ago. I called him. I said, Newt, are you trying to encourage me in some twisted way? He said, no. Did you read the rest of it? I said, You're doing an excellent job. It's just the job's almost impossible now for all the factors that we have. I have the smallest margin in U.S. history at a one-vote margin. So that means anytime anybody gets up in a bad mood, they can stop our agenda or start an international incident, right? So I spend half my day as Speaker of the House and the other half as a mental health counselor, guys. I just sit down with everybody every day, work through their issues with them. But look, we've gotten past all that. I think everybody's totally unified now because we realize the stakes are so high. You won't see any more hijinks going into the election. President Trump came and had breakfast with all the House Republicans about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I invited him in, and it was a great time. It was like a pep rally, And he says, Speaker Johnson, look at Mike Johnson. He's like straight out of Central Casting. This guy's a perfect speaker. Everybody applauds. And then he says,
And he says, "Where's Marjorie? Where's Marjorie?" And she's sitting about halfway down through the room. And she was, and she said, "Are you being nice to him? You better be nice to him." And everybody starts laughing and grabbing. So
that's a great Trump, by
the
way.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. He's I spent a lot of time with him. But look, he is in a great place right now. He is cruising to what I think is going to be a big victory, and that's a great thing for the country.
Well,
and,
my wife
we're
said
excited about it.
My wife said the other night when they were talking about Trump's victories this week and things have never looked better. My wife said, "Well, it's about time because he's been persecuted for so long, incorrectly, by the way." And so for him to finally experience some victory, it's deserved. And look, and I'll say also, Congressman, we've known each other for a long time, and I think you've weathered these storms because God has you in that position for a reason. You're there because God wants you there, and I praise Him for that, and I thank you for being strong and following His will.
Well, thanks for saying so, brother. We don't take the responsibility lightly, as you know, and every day is a challenge, but one that we welcome. Look, our country is in we're facing unprecedented challenges right now. We're coming up on our nation's birthday, of course, July 4th. It's 248 years, and we've talked about this so many times over the years, all three of us, that we cannot take our freedom for granted. We're the greatest nation in the history of the world. We're the most powerful, most free, most successful, most benevolent. But it's not a guarantee that it's passed to the next generation. Reagan said freedom's not inherited in the bloodstream. We got to fight for it and defend it and pass it along. And that's what we're all doing. I dropped my oldest son, Jack, at the Naval Academy on Thursday and last week, and so proud of him. But I tell you what, your heart would swell with pride if you go to one of those military academies on induction day. Yeah. All those young recruits are there and all their families, and everybody waving flags and singing the national anthem. Look, we're the greatest nation that's ever been, the last best hope of men on earth. We can preserve it, but we got to keep our hands steady at the wheel.
Mike, thank you so much for your time. Happy 4th of July.
You too, guys. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Likewise.
101.7 FM, 710 Keel.